The stars looked different this far from home, but Captain Ji-won had grown used to the view through the bridge windows of Seoul's Pride. Her exploration ship had been traveling for 3 months now, and the crew was getting restless. They had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks floating in the void, no signs of life anywhere they looked. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems and the occasional beep from the sensor station where Lieutenant Minho was, running his usual scans. Ji-won was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and calm brown eyes that missed nothing. She had been in space for 15 years and commanded 3 different ships before this one. Her crew trusted her completely because she never made mistakes and always brought them home, safe. Minho suddenly sat up straight in his chair and his hands moved quickly across his control panel. The young officer had excellent instincts, and Ji-won knew that look on his face meant trouble was coming. He turned to face her with wide eyes, and his voice was tight with worry when he spoke. The sensors are picking up multiple contacts, approaching our position. Captain, they are moving fast, and their energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. Estimated time of arrival is 12 minutes at their current speed. Whatever they are big and they have weapons. Ji-won felt her stomach tighten, but her face remained calm as she stood up from her command chair. She had always known this day might come when humanity would meet something else out here in the dark between stars. She just hoped they would be friendly, but the tactical display that Minho was showing her did not look promising at all. "How many ships, Minho, and what kind of weapons are we looking at?" she asked, while walking over to his station to get a better look at the data streaming across his screens. The information was not good news, and she could see why he looked worried. 6 ships, Captain, and they are all larger than us. The biggest one is almost twice our size, and the energy readings suggest they have particle beam weapons and some kind of missile system. Their hulls appear to be made of a crystalline material that I have never seen before. They are definitely not human. Ji-won nodded and moved back to her chair while her mind worked through their options. Seoul's Pride was an exploration vessel, not a warship, and while they had basic defensive systems and a small weapons array, they were not equipped for a real fight. Their best chance would be to try diplomacy first and hope these aliens were reasonable. "Open a channel to the approaching ships and transmit our standard first contact message," she ordered while settling back into her command chair. "Tell them we are peaceful explorers from Earth and request permission to communicate. Make sure they understand we mean no harm to anyone." Minho worked at his station for several minutes before shaking his head in frustration. "They are not responding to any of our transmissions, Captain, and they are still closing on our position. Wait, I am getting something now, but it is not what we hoped for." The main screen flickered to life and showed the image of something that was clearly not human. The alien had a tall, thin body made of what looked like living crystal that reflected light in strange patterns. Its face was angular with no visible nose and eyes that glowed with blue light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "Primitive vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Coalition space and will surrender immediately for processing. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your ship and crew. You have 5 minutes to comply with this order." The transmission ended abruptly, and Ji-won found herself staring at a blank screen while her crew looked at her with worried faces. She had hoped for many things when humanity finally met alien life, but being treated like criminals was not one of them. The arrogance in that crystal alien's voice made her angry, but she forced herself to stay calm. Minho spoke up from his station with his voice full of concern. "Captain, their ships have moved into attack formation around us and their weapons are powered up. I think they are serious about this threat, and we do not have the firepower to fight our way out if this goes bad." Ji-won considered their situation carefully. While the seconds ticked by on the main display, surrender would mean capture and probably imprisonment for her crew, but fighting would likely mean death for everyone aboard. Neither option was acceptable to her as a captain and protector of her people. "Open another channel to their leader," she said finally. "Let me try to reason with them before we make any decisions we cannot take back. Maybe we can convince them that we are not a threat to anyone." The crystal alien appeared on screen again with the same arrogant expression and glowing blue eyes. Its voice was even more harsh this time when it spoke to them. "The 5 minutes have passed, human, and you have not complied with our lawful order. This is your final warning before we open fire on your vessel." Captain Ji-won stood up slowly and faced the screen with her chin raised high. Her voice was steady and clear when she responded to the alien commander. This is Captain G1 of the human vessel Soul's Pride, and I am telling you that we will not surrender to anyone. We are peaceful explorers who have done nothing wrong, and we demand safe passage through this region of space." The alien's glowing eyes seemed to brighten with what might have been amusement or anger. It was hard to tell with such a different face. Foolish human. "You do not understand your situation at all. Your primitive species has no rights in coalition space, and your demands mean nothing to us. Prepare to be destroyed." Jiwan felt something cold settle in her stomach as she realized that diplomacy was not going to work with these aliens. They had already decided that humans were inferior, and nothing she said would change their minds. She looked around at her crew and saw the same understanding in their faces. The alien ships began moving closer, and Jiwan could see weapon ports opening along their crystalline hulls. Bright energy was building up inside those ports, and she knew they had maybe 30 seconds before the shooting started. Her crew was looking at her with trust and fear mixed together in their eyes. Lieutenant Minho's voice was quiet when he spoke from his station. "Captain, what are your orders? Do we fight, or do we try to run? Either way, we need to decide right now." Because they are almost in firing range, Jiwan took a deep breath and felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like it always did in moments like this. She had never lost a crew member under her command, and she was not going to start now, even if it meant doing something that might seem impossible. She walked back to her command chair with slow, deliberate steps, while her mind worked through a plan that had been prepared for exactly this kind of situation. It was risky, and would reveal things that were supposed to stay secret, but her crew's lives were more important than keeping secrets. The alien commander appeared on screen one more time with weapons charging behind him. "This is Commander Veltar of the Coalition Patrol Fleet, and you have 10 seconds to surrender or be destroyed. Your choice, human. But either way, this ends now." Captain Jiwan sat down in her chair and placed her hands on the armrests, while looking directly into the alien's glowing eyes. Her voice was ice-cold when she spoke her final words to the arrogant crystal being. "This is your only warning, Commander Veltar. Stand down immediately or face the consequences of your actions." The alien fleet began to laugh over the communication channel at what they thought was an empty threat from a single small human ship. They had no idea what was about to happen next in the empty space around them. Jiwan smiled for the first time since the encounter began. Captain Jiwan turned away from the screen where Commander Veltar was still laughing with his crystalline features twisted in what she assumed was amusement. The sound was like breaking glass mixed with wind chimes, and it made her teeth ache. She looked at her crew and saw them waiting for orders, while the alien weapons continued to charge. "Daeho, activate Protocol 7 and drop the stealth shroud immediately," she said to her chief engineer, who was sitting at the environmental controls station. His fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease while sweat beaded on his forehead. He was a big man with gentle hands who could fix anything mechanical. But he hated combat situations. "Yuna, bring us to full combat readiness and prepare all defensive systems," Jiwan continued while turning to her weapons officer, the young woman. Had joined the crew only 6 months ago, but she was the best shot Jiwan had ever seen. Her dark eyes were already focused on her targeting display, and her hands were steady on the controls. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as power was redirected to other systems throughout the ship. Warning lights began flashing yellow, and then red as Soul's Pride prepared for what was coming next. The crew worked with quiet efficiency born from countless training drills, but this time it was not a drill. Something changed in the space around them, and the stars seemed to shift slightly as energy fields that had been invisible suddenly became visible. The area that had appeared empty just moments before began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. Directly, Commander Veltar stopped laughing abruptly, and his glowing blue eyes widened as his ship's sensors began screaming warnings at him. The readings made no sense, because they showed massive energy signatures appearing from nowhere. His navigation officer was shouting something about spatial distortions and impossible mass readings. The space around Soul's Pride erupted with light and energy as something huge began to materialize from what had seemed like empty vacuum. The stealth field that had hidden it dissolved like morning mist and revealed the true scope of human technology. What appeared was beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. A massive warship slowly became visible as its cloaking system shut down section by section. The vessel was so large that it dwarfed every ship in the alien fleet combined. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and weapons arrays covered every surface like deadly flowers blooming in the void. The ship's name was written in large white letters along its hull for all to see. Inchun's fury, and just reading those words filled the alien crews with a cold dread they had never experienced before. This was not the primitive exploration vessel they had expected to capture. This was something else entirely. Captain Hyunwoo's face appeared on the communication screen, replacing the image of the confused alien commander. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and calm brown eyes that missed nothing. His uniform was crisp and clean despite being in space for months, and his voice carried absolute authority when he spoke. Commander Veltar of the Coalition Patrol Fleet, you and your ships are now surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to receive instructions. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force and the complete destruction of your fleet. The alien commander's crystalline features had gone pale, which was apparently possible for his species. His glowing eyes flickered like dying bulbs as he tried to process what his sensors were telling him about the massive human warship. The energy readings were off every scale his people had ever developed. Chief Engineer Deho reported from his station with satisfaction in his voice. All systems are operating within normal parameters. Captain, and the stealth field has been completely deactivated. The aliens can now see exactly what they are dealing with, and I do not think they like it very much. Weapons Officer Yuna looked up from her targeting display with a small smile on her face. Target locks are established on all 6 alien vessels. Captain, and our defensive shields are operating at full strength. Their weapons cannot penetrate our barriers even if they all fire at once. The massive warship Incheon's Fury hung in space like a sleeping giant that had just awakened. Its weapons systems were clearly visible along the hull, and each gun was larger than the aliens' entire ships. Power flowed through conduits that glowed with blue energy, and the ship hummed with barely contained force. Communications Officer Yunmi began broadcasting on multiple frequencies in languages that the aliens recognized. She was a small woman with quick fingers and an incredible gift for languages. She had learned 17 different alien dialects by studying intercepted transmissions over the past 3 years. Attention Coalition vessels. This is the human warship Incheon's Fury, operating under military protocols established by the Earth. Defense Force, you are ordered to maintain your current position and await further instructions. Any attempt to flee or communicate with other coalition forces will be considered an act of war. Commander Veltar found his voice finally, though it shook with fear and confusion when he spoke. This is impossible. Human technology cannot produce vessels of this size and capability. Our intelligence reports clearly state that your species has only recently achieved spaceflight and lacks advanced weaponry. Captain Hyunwoo's expression did not change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. When he responded to the aliens' claims, your intelligence reports are completely wrong, Commander, and your people have seriously underestimated human capabilities. We have been watching coalition activities for several years now. The truth hit the alien crews like a physical blow as they realized what the human captain was saying. Their supposedly secret activities had been monitored by a species they considered primitive. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had just been turned upside down. Science Officer Gina spoke up from her station on the Incheon's Fury with clinical precision in her voice. Captain, the alien vessels are attempting to scan our hull composition and defensive capabilities, but our shielding is preventing any meaningful analysis. They are essentially blind to our true capabilities. Navigation Officer Kyung-min added his own report with quiet satisfaction. Their ship's propulsion systems are inferior to ours by several generations. Captain, and their maximum speed is approximately 60% of our cruising velocity. They cannot escape even if they try to run. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had stumbled into something far beyond their ability to handle. Their ships that had seemed so powerful just minutes before now looked like toys compared to the human dreadnought. Their weapons that had been ready to destroy Soul's Pride would barely scratch the warship's paint commander. Veltar tried to regain some authority in his voice, but failed completely. Human vessels, identify yourselves properly and explain how. You obtain technology that violates known laws of physics. The Coalition demands answers to these questions immediately. Captain Hyunwoo actually smiled at that demand, and his amusement was shared by his entire crew. The alien commander was still trying to give orders despite being completely outmatched. It would have been funny if it were not so dangerous for everyone involved. The laws of physics work the same for everyone, Commander. But your understanding of those laws is apparently limited, Hyunwoo replied while leaning back in his command chair. Human science has progressed far beyond what your people believe possible, and we have capabilities that would surprise you. Intelligence Officer Sunho looked up from his station with interest in his voice. Captain, the aliens are attempting to transmit emergency signals to their home systems, but I am intercepting and decoding all of their communications in real time. Should I allow them to continue or block their transmissions entirely? The alien crews froze in terror as they realized that not only were the humans monitoring their emergency calls, but they were doing so effortlessly, their most secure military. Encryption was being cracked like a simple code by the human ship's computers. They were completely exposed and helpless. Captain Hyunwoo considered the question for a moment before responding. Let them transmit their reports, Sunho, but make sure they know we are listening to every word they say. It might be educational for them to understand how thoroughly we have penetrated their communications networks. Commander Veltar's glowing eyes dimmed further as the full scope of human capabilities began to dawn on him. His people were not dealing with primitives who had stumbled into space by accident. They were facing something that might be the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever seen. The alien fleet hung motionless in space around the massive human warship like insects trapped in amber. Their crews were frantically working at control stations trying to understand what they were facing, but their sensors kept giving them impossible readings. The human ship was too big and too powerful for their instruments to fully analyze. Commander Veltar was speaking rapidly into his communication system, trying to contact Coalition Command, but his voice was shaking with fear and confusion. The crystal alien's glowing blue eyes flickered erratically as he struggled to find words that could describe what was happening to his fleet. This is Patrol Commander Veltar requesting immediate reinforcement from any Coalition vessels in the sector. We have encountered a hostile human warship of unknown capabilities and require assistance. Repeat, we need help immediately. The situation is beyond our ability to handle. Captain Hyunwoo listened to the alien's desperate transmissions with a calm expression on his weathered face. He had been expecting this moment for years and was prepared for every possible response the Coalition might have. His crew was also ready and waiting for his orders. Intelligence Officer Sunho looked up from his monitoring station with a slight smile on his lips. Captain, the aliens are broadcasting on 17 different emergency frequencies and using their highest priority military codes. They are clearly terrified and asking for any help they can get. Let them call for help, Sunho, Hyunwoo replied while studying the tactical display that showed the positions of all alien vessels. When their reinforcements arrive, they will have an even better view of what human technology can accomplish. It might save time in the long run. Tactical Officer Minho had transferred from Seoul's Pride to the larger warship where his skills would be more useful. He was studying the targeting systems with fascination because they were far more advanced than anything on the exploration vessel. The weapons arrays on this ship could destroy planets if necessary. Captain, shall I demonstrate our capabilities for the alien commander? Minho asked while his fingers moved across the targeting controls. There is a large asteroid approximately 2,000 kilometers from our current position that would serve as an excellent example. Hyunwoo considered the suggestion for a moment. While watching the alien ships trying to position themselves for either escape or attack, he knew that words alone would not convince these arrogant beings that humanity was beyond their ability to threaten. They needed to see proof with their own eyes. Very well. Minho, select the asteroid and prepare a demonstration shot, he said finally. Make sure the aliens have a clear view of the target and use only minimal power. We want to educate them, not destroy everything in the system. The asteroid that Minho had chosen was a jagged piece of rock about 5 kilometers across that had been drifting through space for millions of years. It was composed of iron and nickel with traces of rare metals that made it valuable for mining, but today it would serve a different purpose entirely. Weapons Officer Yuna worked alongside Minho to calibrate the main cannon for the demonstration. The weapon was larger than most Coalition ships and drew power directly from the warship's fusion reactors. When it fired, the energy release would be visible across several star systems. Attention Coalition vessels, Captain Hyunwoo announced over the communication channel. You are about to witness a demonstration of human military capability. Observe the asteroid at coordinates 74 Mark 9 and note its composition and size for comparison purposes. Commander Veltar looked at his navigation display and located the asteroid that the human captain was referring to. His crystalline features showed confusion because he could not understand why the humans would waste time shooting at random space rocks when they should be negotiating for their lives. The main cannon of Inchen's Fury began to charge with a deep, humming sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. Energy conduits throughout the vessel glowed brighter as massive amounts of power flowed toward the weapon. The barrel itself began to emit a blue glow that grew steadily more intense. Science. Officer Gina monitored the charging process from her station while keeping one eye on the alien ships. Captain, the weapon will be ready to fire in 30 seconds, and the aliens are attempting to scan our energy buildup, but their sensors cannot penetrate our shielding. The asteroid hung peacefully in space, unaware that it was about to become part of a lesson in human military power. Its surface was scarred by millions of years of impacts from smaller objects, and its metal core gleamed dully in the light of distant stars' fire. Captain Hyunwoo ordered quietly, and Weapons Officer Yuna pressed the firing control with steady hands. Lance of pure energy erupted from the main cannon of the human warship and crossed the distance to the asteroid in less than a second. The beam was so bright that the alien ship's view screens automatically darkened to protect their crews from blindness, but nothing could protect them from what they saw next. The asteroid did not simply break apart or explode like normal weapons would cause. Instead, it began to dissolve at the molecular level as the human energy beam struck it. The 5-kilometer-wide chunk of rock and metal turned into glowing particles that danced through space like fireflies. Within 10 seconds, there was nothing left of the asteroid except a cloud of charged particles that sparkled and moved in beautiful patterns. The human weapon had not just destroyed the target, but had completely atomized it down to individual atoms. The display of power was beyond anything in Coalition experience. The alien crews stared at their sensor readings in shocked silence as they tried to process what they had just witnessed. Their most powerful weapons could crack an asteroid. But what the humans had done was on an entirely different level. It suggested technology that violated everything they knew about physics. Commander Veltar's voice was barely a whisper when he finally managed to speak. Impossible. That level of energy release should have created a massive explosion, but there was no shockwave or debris field. How did you contain the reaction and prevent secondary damage? Science Officer Gina answered the alien commander's question. With clinical precision in her voice, our weapons use controlled molecular dissolution rather than crude explosive force, Commander. The energy is precisely focused to avoid collateral damage while ensuring complete target elimination. The implications of what she was saying slowly sank into the alien crew's minds as they realized that the humans had weapons that could destroy anything they chose while leaving everything else completely untouched. Such precision and control required scientific knowledge far beyond Coalition understanding. Tactical Officer Minho looked up from his targeting display with satisfaction in his expression. Captain, the demonstration has been successful and the alien vessels are showing significant stress readings in their hull structures. I believe their crews are experiencing what humans would call panic, Captain. Hyunwoo nodded and opened a communication channel to the alien fleet again. His voice was calm and reasonable when he spoke, but there was steel underneath the polite words. Commander Veltar, you have now seen what human weapons can accomplish with minimal power settings. That was approximately 1% of this ship's total firepower, and we have many more vessels like this one stationed throughout human space. Captain Hyunwoo continued while watching the alien commander's crystalline features grow even paler. Your fleet's combined weaponry could not penetrate our defensive shields, even if you concentrated all your fire. The alien crews were frantically checking their own weapon systems and running calculations on their targeting computers. The results confirmed what they feared most. Their particle beams and missile systems would be completely ineffective against the human ship's defenses. Communications Officer Yunmi received an urgent transmission from one of the smaller alien vessels and looked up with interest. Captain, one of the Coalition ships is requesting permission to surrender and asking for mercy. Their crew is terrified and wants to avoid being destroyed. Let them know that no harm will come to any Coalition personnel who follow instructions and refrain from hostile actions, Hyunwoo replied. We are not conquerors, Commander Veltar, but we We'll defend ourselves against any threats to human lives or interests. Intelligence Officer Sunho suddenly sat up straight at his monitoring station with alarm in his voice. Captain, the aliens have managed to get a message through to Coalition Command, and reinforcements are on the way. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours at maximum Coalition fleet. Speed Captain Hyunwoo smiled grimly at that news because he had been hoping for exactly this development. When more Coalition ships arrived, they would have an even better opportunity to understand humanity's true capabilities and the futility of treating humans as inferior beings. Excellent Sunho, he said, while settling back in his command chair. Signal, Soul's Pride, and tell Captain Ji-won to prepare for extended operations. We are going to have more guests arriving soon, and they will need the same educational experience we have provided today. The hours passed slowly while the alien fleet remained frozen in space around the massive human warship. Their crews had given up trying to escape or fight and were simply waiting to see what would happen next. Commander Veltar sat in his command chair staring at the tactical display with his glowing blue eyes, dim with defeat. Captain Hyunwoo had been monitoring Coalition communications and knew that reinforcements were approaching rapidly. 3 heavy cruisers and a battleship were coming to rescue Veltar's patrol fleet, but they had no idea what they were flying into. The human captain decided it was time for a more personal approach. Commander Veltar, you and your senior officers are invited aboard Incheon's Fury for a diplomatic meeting, Hyunwoo announced over the communication channel. You have my guarantee of safe passage and will be returned to your ships unharmed regardless of what we discuss. The alien commander's crystalline features showed surprise and suspicion at this unexpected invitation. His people had been preparing for death or capture, but not for diplomatic courtesy from beings they had threatened just hours before. He looked around at his bridge crew with uncertainty in his glowing eyes. I cannot leave my ship, human, Veltar replied, with what little authority he could manage. Coalition regulations forbid commanders from boarding potentially hostile vessels. Under any circumstances, you will have to conduct your negotiations through normal communication channels. Captain Hyunwoo had expected this response and was prepared with an answer that would demonstrate human technological superiority once again. Commander, you misunderstand the situation completely. This is not a request, but a statement of fact. You will be coming aboard whether you agree or not. Before Veltar could respond, his entire bridge was suddenly filled with a shimmering blue light that made the air itself seem to vibrate. The alien crew members tried to move, but found themselves unable to control their bodies as some invisible force held them motionless in their chairs. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Minji materialized on the alien bridge along with 2 security officers. She was a small woman with quick hands and intelligent eyes who had studied alien biology for years in preparation for this moment. Her medical scanner was already analyzing the Coalition crew members. The aliens watched in shock as the human doctor worked efficiently to ensure they could survive in the different atmosphere aboard the human ship. She injected each of them with a small device that would help them breathe and move normally in human gravity. Her touch was gentle, despite their fierce security chief Junho stepped forward with calm authority and gestured toward a section of empty air that suddenly became a doorway leading directly to the human ship. The transportation technology was beyond anything the Coalition had ever imagined and defied every law of physics they understood. Commander Veltar and his officers found themselves walking through the impossible doorway, whether they wanted to or not. Their bodies moved without their conscious control as the human technology compelled them forward. Within moments, they were standing in a corridor aboard Incheon's Fury. The interior of the human ship was unlike anything they had expected. The walls seemed to be made of some metal that glowed with soft white light, and the floor felt solid despite being transparent. Below them, they could see stars moving past as the ship maintained its position in space. Junho led them through corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. They passed rooms where humans were working at stations that defied understanding. In one area, they saw technicians building complex equipment from nothing but energy and raw materials that appeared in the air doctor. Minji walked alongside the alien delegation, monitoring their life signs and adjusting their breathing apparatus as needed. Her medical knowledge included 17 different alien species, and she had prepared extensively for this first direct contact between humans and Coalition representatives. The artificial gravity was perfectly stable throughout the ship and could apparently be adjusted in different sections. They watched human crew members walking on walls and ceilings in some areas while maintaining normal orientation. The technology required for such control was staggering. In the engineering sections, they glimpsed massive energy systems that should not have been possible according to Coalition science. Power flowed through conduits made of crystallized energy. Itself and the fusion reactors generated more power than entire Coalition starbases. They passed manufacturing bays where raw materials were converted into finished products by machines that worked at the atomic level. Complex spacecraft components were assembled from basic elements in minutes rather than the months. Such work would require using Coalition technology. Finally, they reached the main conference room where Captain Hyun-woo was waiting for them along. With his senior staff, the room had a large table made of what looked like solid starlight and chairs that adjusted themselves automatically to accommodate different alien body types. "Welcome aboard Incheon's Fury," Captain Hyun-woo said while gesturing. For them to take seats. "I apologize for the unusual method of invitation, but time is limited and your reinforcements will be arriving soon. We have much to discuss before they get here." Diplomatic Officer So-young was a young woman with kind eyes and perfect knowledge of Coalition languages. She had studied their cultures and customs for years and knew exactly how to communicate with different alien species. Her presence helped put the terrified visitors slightly at ease. Commander Veltar managed to find his voice, though it shook with fear and confusion. "Human, what do you want from us, and why have you revealed technology that should not exist? Your species was classified as primitive in all Coalition databases." Captain Hyun-woo exchanged glances with his officers before answering. "Commander, those databases are completely wrong about human capabilities and have been for several decades. We have been aware of the Coalition since before your people discovered our solar system." Navigator Kyung-min activated a holographic display that showed detailed star charts of Coalition space, with human exploration routes marked in blue. The alien delegation stared in shock as they realized the humans had been mapping their territory for years without being detected. These routes represent human exploration missions that have been ongoing for the past 15 years, Kyung-min explained, while highlighting different paths through Coalition space. "Our ships have visited every major system in your territory, and many minor ones as well." The implications were staggering as the aliens realized that everything they thought they knew about galactic exploration and territorial control was wrong. The humans had been moving freely through Coalition space while remaining completely invisible to their detection systems. Engineer Haeun activated another display showing comparative speed calculations between human and Coalition vessels. "Captain, our slowest exploration ships can travel at 3 times the maximum velocity of their fastest military vessels. They could never catch us, even if they knew we were there." Commander Veltar's crystalline features had gone completely pale. As the truth became clear, human science and technology were so far advanced beyond Coalition capabilities that they might as well have been magic. His people were not the advanced civilization he had believed. Intelligence Officer Sunho presented the final piece of evidence that shattered any remaining alien confidence. "Captain, we have been monitoring Coalition communications for 7 years and have complete records of their military capabilities and strategic planning." The alien delegation sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the full scope of human knowledge. About their civilization, everything from fleet movements to political decisions had been observed and recorded by these supposedly primitive beings who had been hiding among the stars. Captain Hyun-woo leaned forward in his chair and looked directly at Commander Veltar with serious brown eyes. "Your reinforcements will arrive in approximately 30 minutes, Commander, and they will face the same choice you did. They can learn the truth peacefully or the hard way. We have been content to remain hidden and observe your people while focusing on our own development," Hyun-woo continued. "But your aggressive first contact protocols have forced us to reveal ourselves. The question now is, what happens next in our relationship?" The truth settled over the alien delegation like a heavy blanket as they began to understand the full scope of what they had discovered. Commander Veltar sat motionless in his chair while his glowing blue eyes flickered with the effort of processing information that challenged everything he believed about the galaxy, Captain. Hyun-woo watched the alien commander carefully and could see the exact moment when the implications became clear. The Coalition was not the advanced civilization exploring primitive space that they thought they were. Instead, they were the primitives being studied by something far beyond their understanding. The communication system in the conference room activated suddenly, and Intelligence Officer Sunho announced that the Coalition reinforcements had arrived. In the system, 3 heavy cruisers and 1 battleship had just dropped out of hyperspace and were moving toward the human ships at maximum speed. Captain Hyunwoo stood up from his chair and walked to the large windows that showed the stars outside. He could see the approaching coalition fleet in the distance and knew that their commanders were probably feeling confident about rescuing their trapped comrades. They had no idea what they were about to face. Admiral Hyunwoo, Commander Veltar, said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper as he used the human's correct rank for the first time. "Are you telling me that everything my people believe about galactic civilization is wrong, and that humans have been the dominant species all along?" "Not dominant, Commander," Hyunwoo replied while turning back to face the alien delegation. "We have never sought to dominate anyone or control other species. We simply wanted to explore and learn while developing our own capabilities in peace. Your people forced this revelation." The approaching coalition fleet began broadcasting demands for the immediate release of Commander Veltar and his ships. Their communications were full of threats and promises of destruction for the humans who had dared to interfere with coalition operations. Tactical Officer Minho reported from his station that the new arrivals were powering up their weapons and moving into attack formation. Their energy signatures indicated they had more powerful systems than the patrol fleet, but still nothing that could threaten the human warship. "Let them see what they are dealing with," Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. "Drop our stealth fields and reveal all escort vessels in the area. It is time for the coalition to understand the true scope of human military capability." The space around Incheon's Fury suddenly filled with energy signatures as dozens of human ships became visible. What had appeared to be empty space was revealed to contain an entire fleet of vessels ranging from destroyers to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the coalition battleship Commander Veltar watched the tactical display with growing horror. As more and more human ships appeared on his sensors, each one was larger and more powerful than anything in coalition space, and they had been hiding there the entire time, waiting and watching. Science Officer Gina provided a calm analysis of the situation while monitoring the coalition fleet's reactions. "Admiral, their battleship is attempting to scan our fleet composition, but our shielding is preventing any meaningful data collection. They are essentially flying blind into an unknown situation." The coalition reinforcements had stopped their advance and were frantically trying to communicate with their command structure. Their admirals were demanding explanations for what they were seeing, but no one had answers to give them about human technology or capabilities. Dr. Minji checked the life signs of the alien delegation and noted that several of them were showing signs of extreme stress. Their crystalline biology was not well suited to handling shock, and she administered mild sedatives to prevent them from losing consciousness entirely. Admiral Hyunwoo opened a communication channel to the new coalition. Arrivals and his image appeared on their main screens. The alien crews found themselves looking at a human who radiated authority and confidence that came from absolute technological superiority. "This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the Human Space Defense Force," he announced, with calm dignity. "Your patrol fleet encountered one of our exploration vessels and chose to threaten it with destruction. This was an unfortunate decision that has led to the current situation." The coalition admiral commanding the reinforcement fleet was a different species than Veltar, with scaled skin and multiple eyes. His voice was harsh when he responded, but there was uncertainty underneath the bluster. "Human vessels, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Release our people immediately and surrender." Admiral Hyunwoo actually smiled at that demand, which sent chills through every alien crew member who saw it. "Admiral, you are badly mistaken about who is outnumbered here. Our fleet contains 47 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts and 1 planet killer. You have brought 4 vessels. The planet killer designation caused panic among the coalition crews because such weapons were theoretical impossibilities according to their science. The idea that humans possessed technology capable of destroying entire worlds was beyond their ability to accept. Engineer Haeun provided additional information that made the situation even more hopeless for the aliens. "Admiral, our fleets combined firepower exceeds the total military capability of the entire coalition by a factor of approximately 1,500 to 1. Resistance would be futile." Diplomatic Officer So-young stepped forward to address both the alien delegation in the conference room and the fleet commanders outside. Her voice was gentle but firm when she spoke about humanity's position in galactic affairs. "The coalition has operated under the assumption that you represent the peak of galactic civilization," she explained, while displaying charts showing comparative technological levels. This assumption is incorrect and has led to policies that threaten peaceful species, like our own. We have documented numerous instances where coalition forces have attacked or enslaved species they deemed primitive, Admiral Hyunwoo continued. Such behavior is unacceptable to humanity and will no longer be tolerated in this region of space. Commander Veltar found his voice again, though it was still shaking with the magnitude of what he had learned. Admiral, what do you want from the coalition, and what will happen to my people who are just following orders from their superiors? That is an excellent question, Commander, Hyunwoo replied while returning to his seat at the conference table. Humanity has no desire for conquest or revenge, but we will not allow aggressive behavior toward peaceful exploration vessels to continue. The coalition has a choice to make about how it interacts with other species in the future, So-young explained while bringing up displays showing coalition military policies. Either those policies change to emphasize peaceful contact and mutual respect, or humanity will be forced to intervene more directly. The alien crews throughout both fleets were listening to this conversation with growing understanding that their entire worldview had been shattered. They were not the advanced beings they thought they were, and had been completely outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed. Admiral Hyunwoo stood up and walked to the windows again while considering his next words carefully. He knew that what he said next would determine the future relationship between humanity and the coalition for generations to come. You will return to coalition space and inform your leaders that humanity exists and possesses technology far beyond your current capabilities, he said finally. You will also inform them that we have been monitoring their activities and disapprove of their treatment of developing civilizations. The coalition fleet commanders outside were frantically trying to establish communication with their home systems, but found that all their transmissions were being intercepted and analyzed by human intelligence systems. They were completely exposed and vulnerable. Intelligence Officer Sunho confirmed that the aliens' emergency communications were being allowed through, but that human systems were monitoring every word. The coalition leadership would soon know exactly what had happened and would have to decide how to respond. Commander Veltar stood up slowly from his chair and faced Admiral Hyunwoo with what little dignity he could manage. Admiral, I understand that my people have made a terrible mistake today, and that we are completely at your mercy. What assurance do we have that you will not destroy us? You have the assurance that comes from human nature, Commander, Hyunwoo replied. With a slight smile, we do not destroy those who pose no real threat to us, and we prefer peaceful solutions to violent ones. Your ships and crews will be allowed to leave unharmed. The alien delegation was escorted back to their ships using the same impossible transportation technology that had brought them aboard. Within minutes, they were standing on their own bridges, trying to explain to their crews what they had learned. The massive human fleet began to fade from view as stealth systems reactivated one by one. Within an hour only, Inchin's fury remained. Visible as a reminder of what the coalition had encountered, the other ships disappeared back into the void where they had been waiting. Admiral Hyunwoo's final transmission to the departing coalition fleet was brief, but carried implications that would reshape galactic politics forever. Remember what you have seen here today and choose your future actions wisely. Humanity will be watching.